Can you explain the role of women in the congregation? I was kind of stumped as to where Paul was saying concerning women in preaching and pastor. Okay. So first off, there is a passage in the Bible that is much debated, and we have to understand the cultural context. Now, we're not looking for a loophole to let women be pastors and teachers. No. What we have to understand is what Paul was dealing with. You got to look at the context of the passage. That's always the key. The big issue is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 and 35. But first, before I read it, I want to kind of give the context. So Paul is trying to teach them how to have an organized service, because there's a lot going on. So first he talks about people with a hymn or a lesson or a revelation, a tongue or interpretation. And he's saying, you guys got to take your turn. You can't just all do it at once, and maybe only one or two or three at a time. Things were just getting crazy because they were all operating in the spiritual gifts, and it was a bit chaotic. So he deals with that. And then he gets to the second passage, and it starts with the second half of verse 33. It says, "As in all the churches of the saints, the women should keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be in submission, as the law also says. If there is anything they desire to learn, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is shameful for a woman to speak in a church." Okay, so there's a lot of people who have a problem with this for very good and modern reasons. What's going on here is Paul is trying to establish a biblical model. And part of that is understanding the curse that we all live under. Even though we are redeemed and forgiven, and we are regenerated on the inside, we are a new person, a new creation. We're still living inside our bodies that have a tendency towards sin. Now, one such curse goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, and that is the curse that that God said that Eve would have to suffer under, and that is that your desire will be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. There's always going to be this struggle between men and women, where women want to rule over the men. We're seeing a lot of that nowadays. Now, yes, it's true. This verse here says that in Christ there is no male nor female, free nor slave, and Jew nor Greek, and all that. Yes, absolutely. In Christ we are all equal. But while we're still in our earthly bodies, there is still a design and a plan that God has created. Now, he's talking specifically to wives, not all women. It is your wives. And so what he's saying is, be in submission to the men that you're married to. Now, submission doesn't mean you just do whatever they say and shut your mouth. No, it doesn't mean that. It's a partnership. But there are other passages like here where it says that the man is the head of the household. He's the priest of the home. He's the one that takes the burden of responsibility from God's eyes. And so when he's trying to rein all this madness in, he's saying, look, we can't have everybody speaking, so the men are the ones that are going to be doing the preaching, okay? And so women, if they've got questions, they need to go to their husbands about it. So wives, you need to talk to your husbands, and that way not everybody's just jumping up, asking questions and shouting things and prophesying and tongues and all that other stuff that's going on. He's just trying to rein it in a cultural and a biblical model. Now, a lot of people don't like the fact that God has created things this way, and they'll even argue saying, no, everybody's everything now. Well, that's not God's model. God's model is, if you're married, that the man is the head of the household and the woman is the helpmeet. And it's not that she's less of a person, it is that she is a helper by design. That's her role. Just like a soldier is not any less valuable as a person than a captain, but the captain has the authority and the responsibility and bears the penalty for failing more than the soldier does. So I hope that helps you understand. A lot of people don't like this passage, but it's certainly not saying that women should just shut up and not say anything. No, because there are women who he even applauded in ministry. So please don't take it that way.